Hello everyone and welcome to my first video of SimCity, and it's my first YouTube video in general. Somebody on Reddit asked me to record a video and I thought why not, because well, I, I really don't have a reason why not. I guess my reason could be that it's a lot of work and that I've never done it, and well, whatever. Sometimes you just have to try new things. So I'm trying this, and this is also my first voiceover ever, although it's not my first attempt because I had some issues with the recording software. But in the end, I hope this one works out. We'll see. So what am I showing you here? Why am I making this video? Well, I've been posting some of my builds on Reddit and got some pretty nice responses. And well, I thought um, I'm gonna do a little bit of a video on something that I built. And what I'm gonna build here is a little bit of a neighborhood in an addition to my city. And what you can see me do here is I'm working on the shoreline. Now, the shoreline by itself is always a very jaggy bit of a mess, and that's why it looks nice. That's why it looks like a shoreline, but I kind of want it to look neat, like you can see on the right side here. So I decided that I'm gonna work on the shoreline, and first I increased the height and leveled it. And now, as you could see, I was taking a better water depth from the other side to make sure that the embankments are gonna look nice. Well, in the process I destroyed the bridge, so I had to rebuild that. But now I'm gonna use the level terrain tool to work on the shoreline a bit. And yeah, I use these single street bits to level out the terrain, as you can see here. I'm gonna show, I recorded this before, so I'm just narrating what I'm doing. Um, I'm gonna show you how the embankments kind of work. As you can see, there's these embankments that have no pavement on the bottom. They look alright on different levels, but the ones with pavement, which I do like, they are a bit iffy. And this is where I realized when building this that I messed up the height of the side of the river that I was placing all around. So I was thinking, how am I gonna get the right height over here? And I decided to just redo the height. So what I'm doing here is I'm lowering the terrain as close to the water level as possible. Then I'm gonna level it out with some single street bits. And then I'm gonna raise it 15 meters with the tool. And that tool is part of NAM. If you want to use that, you probably have to use NAM. There might be some standalone ones, but NAM is always a nice tool, a set of tools to have for your city. So I suggest you just get that. And as you can see right about now, yeah, here we go. This looks pretty nice with the little sidewalk over there. So that's why I'm doing all this extra work. Well, you could call it work, but I mean, it's just entertainment for me to build these kind of creative projects. So what I'm doing here is I'm just finishing off this little bit of shoreline in order to fit out the embankments, and then I'm thinking, how am I gonna end this bit? Because I could make it go under the bridge, but I don't think I could make that look very nice. Maybe I could. I don't know. So I just decided to not bother with it and just end it over there. And I think it turns out pretty okay. So here I go, lowering some terrain. After leveling it, I'm very efficient in this. But I'm lowering the terrain because I want to place a little bit of a ferry terminal, because this is a city with a lot of ferry terminals. And so once you have a lot of ferry terminals, there's no reason to not keep building more ferry terminals because it just helps you connect everything. And it's just a little bit of a project that I'm doing, testing out if ferries are a viable way of transporting a lot of people across the water. And so far, the uses of these ferry terminals has been very good compared to the bridge that I built. So I think it might actually work alright. Now here I'm just finishing off this bit of embankments and finding the puzzle pieces while scrolling through the menu. How this thing with the single street bits work, if you don't know, when you place a single bit of street, it just flattens out the ground underneath it, and when you place one next to it, it copies the height and flatness of the first one that you place down. So you can just make very nice flat areas, very precise flat areas, quite easily by just using a bunch of street bits. It's a lot more clicks, I guess, than using terrain tools. Oh, and as you saw there, well, you might not have noticed, but the last little bit of road on the ferry terminal was underwater, and I just increased the height a little bit, and now it's not underwater, but the slope got a little bit derped, and now we raised the thing, and I decided I was just gonna do it again because I don't know, I didn't mind the extra work. But yeah, you don't really have to be that much of a, I don't know what the name is, but you don't have to be this precise to make nice builds. I mean, it's not necessary to be that antsy about the little details, I think, to make something that is nice, but I thought it's my first YouTube video, so why not give it all I have? And here I'm forgetting that I didn't get the right height level yet over here. And yeah, this is about where I find out. And so I found out I have to delete all this. And it wasn't really feeling like doing all the street bits over there. Because I thought, well, this is gonna be a bit of a big project. Maybe I shouldn't do it all in one video. So as you can see now, I'm over here again. And I'm figuring out how am I gonna fit these nice sidewalk little pieces in there. It needs a transition piece that's 3 tiles wide and it wouldn't fit. So I'm looking at the river and thinking, well, maybe I can just make some sort of an indentment. So I measured out how much space I would need and I started leveling out some terrain and looking for ways that it would fit. Now, I wouldn't recommend placing all these down, and I could have known that I shouldn't have done that because before I already um, had a little bit that got destroyed by terraforming, but what's gonna happen next is I'm gonna meticulously scroll through menus, I place all these things down, and then I'm gonna terraform and they all disappear and I have to do it all over again. So yeah, sometimes I just make mistakes and I don't learn lessons very fast. I don't know. Sometimes I do learn lessons very fast. This was just a moment where maybe I was just a bit distracted because I was recording and everything. Now here I'm testing out the wider curves. They could have looked pretty nice, but it would have meant because the transition piece wouldn't fit, so I would have had to redo a lot of the stuff. And I thought, well, these tighter curves look pretty nice as well, so I just went with the tighter curves. Looks a bit like a half hexagonal or something, and I think that's a very nice look for that area. Now here I'm gonna work on this Zig Zag Road that I had pre-placed, and well, that zigzag road looks a bit weird, I guess, but maybe yeah, the idea behind the road, it is that if you look at it from a bit far, it goes straight across the screen. If you look at it like that, it goes horizontally. And I kind of wanted to do something where, like, when you see pictures of big cities and great boulevards, you see a straight road with a lot of very impressive buildings. And I kind of wanted to replicate something of that look in SimCity, and because of the isometric, or it's not strictly isometric, I guess, it's a variation of isometric, but because of the way the camera works, it's pretty hard to make that. You can build something that should look like that in real life, but you can't move the camera to see it that way. So I thought maybe if you use some squiggly roads or something, you could make something that ends up doing that kind of thing on screen. I don't know. Well, I just had that idea and I went with it, and I thought it might look nice. You could use fractional angles, but they don't go quite horizontally or vertically on the screen. And this one, for as far as I could tell, was perfectly horizontal as long as the terrain was flat or vertical. I'm actually going for vertical because I like those looks where you stare down a road and see all the big buildings and all the things that are happening down the road. What I did here with the roads is I didn't like the way the steep the steep ramp was, so I decided to use some rails in order to smooth it out a bit. And I had to experiment a bit and try a couple of different things in order to get a nice smooth slope there. And how the rails work is the rails are limited. I don't know if this is just a NAMP thing or if that also works in vanilla, but how they work in this setting at least is that they are limited to how steep they can go. And when you drag rails over a bit that is too steep, it doesn't just say, oh, you can't place this. No, it actually changes the terrain. And so you can use rails to make very smooth slopes like that. And that's how that road got, well, pretty smooth. I kind of like the look of it. What I'm doing here is I'm just starting to work on finishing off the whole initial phase of this project, where I place down a lot of the defining parts of the infrastructure and the area. I think that's what you could see it as. For instance, the ferry terminal defined where a big access point is gonna be, and the other road did quite the same. So I think that's a good way of working. You go from the most important things, and you just use those to help you shape out the rest of of the of the of the layout. Now here I'm using some Patmos because I like the way the street lights look. But the downside of Patmos is that they don't activate the little sidewalks on the roads. So yeah, I'm not sure if I like that. I might change that later. I think I already changed that actually, but I'm not gonna change it in the video. I did that in between recording it and trying to do the voiceovers and just jumping in game and looking at the city a bit. Okay, now here you can see a nice little shoreline. And what I like to do with these kind of shorelines is place some commercial near it, because I think that makes sense. It might make sense to have houses right next to it, but the problem is that um, I'm not actually sure how it works, but the Patmos don't really work with houses. It I haven't tested it actually, but it's what they said in the NAM description, so well, maybe I should just test it sometimes to see how it does or doesn't work. What I'm doing here is I'm looking for different street textures from the street add-on mod that comes with NAM, and I'm looking for the way the pavements look, because I wanted a pavement that really fills in the area. Or, well, I was just looking for what the options are first, and I'm just trying each one out. I deleted a couple that wasn't gonna work for a living space or what you call it, a neighborhood anyways. And now, yeah, I figure out that I accidentally put the Japanese one twice. Well, the industrial doesn't look good at all. I don't really, that there's that gray cobblestone one. I don't know why, but it just looks very weird to me. I think it's because the cobblestones are way too big. Uh, Maybe it's just that the contrast in the texture is a bit weird, or it just doesn't. It doesn't look too bad or anything, but it, I almost never find that it works. And here I'm placing some custom bus stops to show you that there's 3 different sizes, um, and you can use those for different neighborhoods, for when you're zoning 3 thick or 2 thick, or and then you can choose to leave a gap for a bus stop, for instance. There's some creative ideas that you could do with that. Now here I'm about to zone residential, and well, this is where I thought maybe I could just um, pick a size of zoning and force a type of building that I want to see show up. So I'm going around the city looking for nice buildings, and most of them are 2 by 3, so that's a pretty bad size to pick because there's a lot of variation in what can show up then. And now I'm seeing some 2 by 4 that kind of look, well, I think they look a bit like holiday homes that you can see, for instance, in Spain, or, well, they don't really look like homes, but more like hotels, I guess, or motels, or whatever you call those things. So they look like fancy homes that you would have near a beach or near a shoreline. So I thought it would be nice to use those. Now here I'm looking at some other parts of the city to see if there's some other variations that might work, but most of them are 2 by 3 or 1 by 2. 2 by 1, yeah, 1 by 2 or 3 by 2, I guess. I don't know. I'm always confused by how you say those measurements. So I decided to go with the 4 by 2. And here I'm just planning out some of the streets, looking where it would be smart to have some bus stops, continuing some of the pet malls. I'm just experimenting a bit with the shapes and looking for ways to, well, I'm not looking to get as much residential in here as possible. I'm just looking for ways that it would be interesting to have them in there. For instance, I don't know if you noticed, but the 2 by 4 building, um, it leans a bit to one side of the lot and has a bit of parking on the other side. So when you zone them in 2 different directions adjacently, they are staggered. And that's, well, here I'm just testing out different flower gardens, but that kind of looks interesting because near a coast you would have some staggered buildings so they wouldn't block each other's views. Now here I'm doing 3 in a row, they end up blocking the views of each other quite a bit, but I think it was kind of an interesting concept. It's making a little bit of a plaza area near the shore. And here I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna fix the land value, because they are third tier residential, or I don't know what you call that. High wealth residential, I guess, is the correct name. So you do need a bit of farm stuff, and some trees tend to help with that too. I don't know if they do something for park value, or whether they just reduce potential pollution, but I think they look nice. Trees always look nice, and they are actually a bit functional in this game too, so it's always smart to leave some space for a bit of trees. And here I'm just figuring out where I want to put the school, and in the end I end up sacrificing one of the 2x4 blocks for the school. I think that's alright. Maybe it's an oversized school. I guess it's an oversized school. I didn't really think about that. I just automatically use those because, yeah, I don't know why I use those always. Well, they're easier to click when you need to adjust the cost of it. And here I derped out for a little while. Yeah, I sped that up quite quickly. Um, what I was thinking there is, wait, I wanted to do a monorail there, but it turned out I already had decided that I didn't want to do the monorail there, but I hadn't decided yet where I did want to do the monorail. Uh, so it wasn't really firm in my head that I didn't want it there, so I derped out a bit. But now I figured, alright, let's do the monorail over the top here. And in order to do that, and also to connect the educational building over there, I had to develop a little bit up there as well. Now here I'm just figuring out how I'm gonna align this. Well, that derped out the little shore wall, so I guess I had to keep a gap there. And now I had to reflatten that bit, and well, I'm getting there. I'm getting there step by step. Now, what I don't really meticulously plan everything when I build a city like this, but I do have some ideas about, for instance, this forest. I'm gonna destroy a bunch of that forest, but I do want to keep a lot of it as well, because, well, I don't want to be the most destructive part, the thing in nature. So I figured, and it would look kind of nice as a bit of a park as well, to have a forest in the middle of the city. And now I'm thinking, wait, this ferry terminal, where is it gonna go? I thought maybe at the pier, but the pier, it's already sticking out a bit. Maybe the river is actually a bit too small over there. So I thought, well, it's gonna be better if I put it over there, because it has better connection to business districts, and I can make it look nice over there. I didn't want to destroy my pier, or well, it's not really a pier. It's um, I don't know if there's a good English word for it, but the idea of it was that it's a bit of an extension into the river, and in real life they use those to increase the flow of the river, and the increased flow helps decrease the amount of sediment that settles down in the river, so it decreases the amount of maintenance you need to do on the river when you have a couple of those. So that's what I wanted to simulate there. Now here I'm doing a little bit of a different design on how I'm doing the streets and the bus stops near the ferry terminal. And well, I derped out, messed up the roads, had to redo the roads. And I'm just using a lot of the rail trick to get some smooth results, because, well, it's really the only way to get smooth roads. In theory, you could use terraform tools, but they're very iffy, and they're not very precise. and when you hold them down a little bit too long, you have to redo a lot of the work that you did. Now here I'm trying to finish off this bit over here, and I think the result looks kind of okay. Maybe the people that are just standing there are a bit weird, but whatever. Life is a bit weird sometimes. So I kind of like that result, a little bit of a stairs kind of thing. Over here, I'm gonna be looking to. Oh, first I noticed the house that got disconnected somewhere along the way. It must have been disconnected for a while. I tried to grow the buildings, but they wouldn't grow yet because I think it was because they didn't have enough services. So I decided to put down all the services that you could want. And I thought, well, you're gonna need to connect those services, so I'm trying to put in a road, but putting in the road kind of derped things, so I saved quickly in order to have a point to go back to. So I tried this bit with the rail, but that intersection somehow derps out the whole bit, so it didn't really make sense to me, but in the end I figured out a way to connect it by doing a little bit of a diagonal over here, and it kind of looks alright. Now here I'm just planning out the monorail and finishing off this part of the new neighborhood. Or I guess it's a separate neighborhood. Well, I think it's part of the neighborhood. I'm planning to do some connection across the walls, the walls that you see there, and I think, well, that's gonna be something that looks kind of interesting. I'm gonna need to do some kind of connection in order to connect that part to the ferry terminal. So, well, that's something for another video, I guess. Here I'm just adjusting the school bus and the ambulance things to cover just a bits that need it. And yeah, here I'm just finishing off this neighborhood, plopping down. I think I got a little bit lazier and just plopped down some residential because I thought, well, it took me 2 hours to build all this, so I think it's fair enough that I took the easy road at some point and decided that I've been spending enough time. And as you can see now, I don't know if I got lucky, but the correct building showed up, and I was really happy with that result. They showed up so much too. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 bits that had some trouble with it. I can't remember how it later on developed because I did let it sit for a while after this video got finished. And I do believe one more popped up, or yeah, I'm not sure. I do remember um, putting some parks over one of them and just leaving that as a bit of extra park because I thought, well, why not? Here I'm just doing some more plant and tree kind of stuff, and I thought, well, this meridian would look kind of nice with some plants, and I think it looks kind of cool. Maybe some of those plants are a bit close to the road, but it's a bit annoying to delete those because you have to delete an entire tile and then you have to rezone it. And here's some finishing shots of the new area. I have been Whip Builds, I guess. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you again.